So mobility as a service, huh?
Yeah.
Moz. It's got everyone buzzing, right?
Right.
Is this really going to change how we get around cities or what?
Well, it's definitely not just hype. I mean, think about the state of our cities, right?
Yeah, gridlock, pollution, not exactly a pretty picture.
Exactly. And we need solutions that work like now. And that's where Moz comes in. At least that's the hope. It's interesting timing.
Okay, so back up a sec. For those who haven't spent their lives reading transportation journals,
Yeah.
what is Moz exactly in like normal human speak?
Okay, so imagine this. One app on your phone, and it handles everything. Buses, trains, ride sharing, even those e-scooters that are taking over sidewalks.
So it's not just like having a bunch of different apps.
Nope. It's all integrated. You plan a trip, you book it, you pay for it, all in one place. That's Moss in a nutshell. There's a good definition in this paper: creation of mobility packages based on the Moss 2020 travel behavior and PDF.
All right, so less juggling, more moving. Sounds good so far. But does it actually work? Like in the real world?
Well, there was this really interesting pilot program in Gothenburg, Sweden called Ubigo.
Ubigo, okay. What happened there?
So people loved it, the flexibility, the ease of use, but...
There's always a but.
Right. It ended up folding, sadly. Money problems and a whole mess of institutional hurdles, according to this, developing the service in mobility as a service, Expet 2016 transportation.pdf study.
So it's not just about building the app. The whole system needs to be on board.
Exactly. And that's a major challenge for a lot of cities. Outdated regulations, tax systems that haven't caught up. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Okay, I get the system side. But what about the users? What's in it for them besides not having to download a zillion apps?
Well, mass public preferences 23EA is 0E 6423 43C9 8F99 AT5B 23D 54CC63.pdf found that for a lot of folks, it's about the economics, especially compared to owning a second car, which a lot of households do.
Yeah, those car payments are a killer.
Yeah.
So mass could be like a cheaper alternative.
Potentially. And it gives you that flexibility that owning a car or even a transit pass can lack. There's a great quote in the Ubigo study: purchasing a car or a public transport pass can make people feel locked in to choose that mode no matter what the trip condition.
Locked in, yeah, I feel that. So we've got this vision, smooth journeys, choice, maybe even saving some cash. But we've also got these systemic roadblocks. What else do we need to be thinking about?
Data. Tons of data. That's what makes Moss tick. User data, vehicle data, even data from the infrastructure itself.
Okay, hold up. Is this going to be a privacy nightmare? Are we all going to be tracked every time we, step outside?
It's a valid concern. And this Moss surveillance privacy A971A74D6459470878BB38DCFC4.pdf paper digs into that. I mean, Moss needs to know where you are, where you're going, what kind of transport you like. That's a lot of info.
So how do we make sure that doesn't get abused?
Well, that's where things like GDPR come in, right? Strong data protection rules. Mass providers need to be super transparent about what data they're collecting, how they're using it, and getting consent from users. No funny business.
Right, got to protect those digital rights.
Yeah.
It seems like we're just scratching the surface here. This Moss thing it's a whole can of worms.
Oh, absolutely. We've only just begun to unpack it.
So you're saying buckle up, folks. This is going to be a wild ride. It's almost like Moz is like part of this bigger digital transformation thing.
Oh, definitely. Everything's going digital these days.
Yeah, remember that paper we looked at, Digital Transformation Railways 2018 web.pdf? Even railways are getting in on the action, like super old school stuff.
It's pretty wild. But yeah, Moz is riding that wave for sure. But it brings up this question of who's steering the ship? Is it private companies? Or does the government have a role to play?
It's like, who's building the roads for this Moss future?
A great analogy. And different cities are trying different things. Mawson BE, Area 3B FCC7, B336145CF, 94581C0024116A3C.pdf. Looked at Belgium, and some cities there are all about a purely private model, let the market decide. Others are more into a public-private partnership kind of thing.
It's like, who do you trust to build a good transportation system? But whoever's in charge, they better listen to the people actually using it, right?
Absolutely. That same paper, it stresses how crucial citizen involvement is. If you design a Moss system that doesn't work for, say, senior citizens or people with disabilities, well, you've kind of missed the point.
Right. It's got to work for everyone, not just the tech-savvy folks.
And that leads to another interesting point about those institutional barriers we were talking about. Some cities are trying to tackle them by forming these these Moz
The
alliances.
alliances, like a team effort.
Yeah, exactly. Mason NL255FD9 2904 685 BAT AV AA7 B25 D5B D0 E.PDF talks about that. You get public transport providers, private companies, even like universities, all coming together, sharing resources, knowledge, even taking on some of the risk together.
Sounds good on paper, but I can see those getting messy. Like, who's calling the shots?
Yeah, there are definitely potential downsides. The source mentions things like power imbalances, if one company is way bigger than the others, and trust issues, obviously. Can all these different groups really work together towards a common goal? It's tough.
And what about the government in all of this? Like, that same source mentions how some of these companies involved in the alliances, they kind of downplayed the need for public support, even though, like, they benefited from government subsidies in the past.
It's kind of like they want to have their cake and eat it too, right? They want Maz to be seen as this private sector success story, but they've relied on public money to get things going. It's a tricky relationship for sure.
Yeah, lots of gray areas there. So it seems like we're still in the early stages here, right? Lots of experimenting, figuring things out as we go, all within this bigger context of digital transformation, which can be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, there's no instruction manual for this stuff. Every city's got to find its own way.
And remember that question we had about Moz and social inequalities? Like, could it actually make things worse for some people?
Yeah.
That seems even more relevant now as we're like getting into the nitty-gritty of how it's actually being done.
Right. We can't just assume Moss is going to be this magical equalizer. We need to be paying attention to who's benefiting and who might be getting left behind.
Yeah, it's not just about making things faster and more efficient. It's about making sure everyone has access to those benefits.
Absolutely. And then there's this other layer of complexity, this concept of intermediary Moz integrators. That's from Intermediary Moz Integrators, A-Case 2020, Transportation Research, Part A.PDF.
Okay, intermediaries, that sounds kind of bureaucratic. What's that all about?
Think of them like the middlemen, the connectors in the Moz world. They link up the transport providers like bus companies or taxi companies with the Moz operators, the ones who put together those Moz packages.
So instead of each Moz operator having to like negotiate separate deals with every single bus company or whatever, they can go through an integrator who brings everyone together.
Exactly. It's supposed to streamline things, make it easier to scale up.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't always go smoothly. This paper mentions a case study in Sweden where they tried to set up a national intermediary integrator, and there was a lot of pushback.
Someone forgot to invite everyone to the party, I guess. So who was objecting?
Both the transport providers and the Moz operators, actually. Some were worried about costs, some about losing control, and there was this general fear that these intermediaries could become like bottlenecks, slowing things down.
So it's like adding another layer, but not necessarily making things better.
Yeah, it's got to be done carefully. And the source even suggests that. Like, you should only bring in these intermediaries if there's already a proven demand for Moz. Don't put the cart before the horse, right?
Yeah, right. Make sure people actually want this stuff before you build a whole system around it.
And that brings up another important point. We need more research, more evidence to back up all the claims being made about Moz. There's a lot of hype, but we need data to show the real impact,
Like, show me the receipts. Don't just tell me it's awesome.
Exactly. How is it affecting travel times? Is it really reducing congestion? What about public transport usage? We need answers.
It's still early days, I guess. We're figuring this out as we go. Moz isn't some magic wand. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's making us rethink how we move around cities, how we design them, how we manage them.
And it brings up all these questions about technology, collaboration, equity. That's a lot to unpack.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of unpacking, we haven't even gotten to real-world examples yet, like what's actually working out there.
Right. Enough with the theory. Show me the Moz.
Okay, well, how about we take a trip to Helsinki, Finland? They've been doing some cool things with Moz. There's this app called Whim. We can dive into that in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so Helsinki, Finland. They've got this Whim app, right? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so Whim is like it's one of the first Moz apps that actually went commercial. Like real people using it, paying for it. It's been around since 2016, I think. This mass public preferences 23EDI 642343C9 8F39 85B 23D 54CC63.PDF paper talks about it.
So it's not just a pilot program anymore.
Nope, it's a real thing. You can get a monthly subscription to Whim, and it covers all sorts of transportation, like buses, trams, taxis, Sort of like a Netflix for getting around the city.
Interesting. So Helsinki's doing its thing, but what about other places? Is anyone else jumping on this Moz bandwagon?
Oh yeah, for sure. Managed Transportation Service Bundling 14D 6702, 69DB 42A4 9195 431 EF993 A4 CF.PDF mentions trials in London, Sydney. Lots of cities are experimenting. Some are going the subscription route, like Helsinki. Others are more pay as you go.
Makes sense, I guess. Different strokes for different folks, right? But one thing I'm wondering is Moz actually getting people out of their cars? Like, is it living up to that whole less car dependency promise?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the answer is, well, it's complicated. Some studies have found that when you include shared cars in a Moz package, people are actually less likely to choose it. Kind of weird, right? More options, but less appeal.
Maybe it's like people aren't ready to give up that feeling of having their own car, even if it means sharing. Or maybe the pricing just isn't right yet.
Yeah, pricing is definitely a big factor. If using a shared car through Moz isn't significantly cheaper than owning your own, why bother? And that ties into a bigger question of how do we make Moz financially sustainable, in the long run.
Well, this Muscas's carpooling A4CT1492D2 4648 AA1E02T6 F2D 7981.PDF source talks about the role of Moss brokers. They're like the ones pulling the strings behind the scenes, putting together the mobility packages and all that. But it also raises some concerns about their influence.
Yeah, there's a worry that if those brokers get too much power, they could end up like messing with pricing or even influencing like investment decisions. So instead of Moss leading to a better transport system, it could just end up benefiting the brokers themselves.
Right. So we need to be careful about who's controlling the Moss game, essentially.
Yeah.
But zooming out a bit, how could Moss change the way we design cities, in the future?
Well, this TRB 2019 Massam Extended Abstractful.pdf paper suggests we need a new way of thinking about transportation networks. They call it a multimodal network model.
Multimodal. Sounds fancy.
It's actually pretty simple. It just means we need to stop thinking about each mode of transport separately, like buses over here, trains over there, bikes somewhere else, and start thinking about how they all work together.
So, like, instead of focusing on making, say, bus routes more efficient, we should be thinking about how those buses connect to train stations, bike paths, ride sharing, all of it.
Exactly. And that has implications for everything, urban planning, infrastructure, traffic management, data sharing. It's a whole new way of looking at how cities work.
But all this tech, all this interconnectedness,
Yeah.
it can't come at the expense of people, right? We've been talking about these social and equity concerns. How does Moz address those?
Questioning Mobility as a Service, Unanticipate 2020 Transportation Research-PPDF, really makes us think about the potential downsides. Like, what happens to taxi drivers or bus drivers if everyone's using autonomous vehicles? What about people who can't afford smartphones or don't have good internet access? Could Moz actually increase inequality?
Yeah, those are important points. We can't just assume technology is going to solve everything. Sometimes it creates new problems.
And it's not just about access to technology, it's also about how Moz is designed, how it's implemented. Moz Welfare Impacts, 903 A1SAY ADB77485C 9427451 AS65 DDB27.pdf dives into that, looking at the potential welfare impacts.
Welfare impacts, so like how Moss affects things like travel times,
Yeah.
costs, energy use.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. They did these simulations looking at different scenarios, like different sizes of shared vehicle fleets, different pricing models, even how people might behave. And it turns out Moz could lead to shorter travel times, less energy consumption.
So it could make cities more sustainable. That's good, right?
It is, but there are also potential downsides. Like the simulations also show that Moz could actually make congestion worse if it's not managed well. And there's a risk that public transport usage could go down if Moz makes private options too attractive.
So it's a bit of a balancing act, I guess. Moz isn't a guaranteed win.
Exactly. It all comes down to how it's implemented, how it fits into the bigger picture of a city. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about the policies, the regulations, the collaborations, and honestly, the values that guide its development.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. We've seen the potential of Moss, right? The convenience, the flexibility, the possibility of making cities more sustainable, more livable.
But we've also learned that it's not a silver bullet. There are real challenges and a risk of unintended consequences if we're not careful.
It's complex, it's messy, it's evolving.
Right.
And it's definitely something we need to keep talking about. I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
Definitely. And as you continue to explore Mars, on your own, keep asking the tough questions. How do we make sure it benefits everyone? How do we balance innovation with the public good? How do we use technology to create cities that are not just efficient, but also fair and sustainable?
Those are the questions we need to keep in mind as Moz becomes more and more a part of our lives. Well, this has been quite the journey. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of mobility as a service. It's been fascinating.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Bye.